Welcome. Today's practice is going to be a little bit of a review from things we've already done with a nice sprinkling of something new. Um, what we'll be reviewing is the Ujjayi breathing technique, sometimes known as that fogging breath, ocean breath, Darth Vader breath, or also sometimes commonly called yoga breathing. We will also review Sun Salutation A, which was our first practice. Now we're also going to learn something just called Sun Salutation. Wait, what? I know it sounds confusing, but you've got to remember that yoga developed, especially the physical practices, as those kind of evolved in this big place. And so different styles, different approaches developed in different regions. So the Sun Salutation A was happened, like central, south-ish, um, West Coast, or not West Coast, but Western South area. And then what we're going to talk about, this other style, is a little bit more northern in the East. They're all valid. However, it's really important to recognize that there are different kinds. If you go on the internet and you were to search sun salutation, you might get these different things, and it might be a little bit confusing. So try to sort that out for you. But before we begin, let's review. So let's start with some Ujjayi breathing. Come on, sit down. Let's relax. Let's get this done. And in fact, it might be helpful for you to lie down. If you want to sit down, I'm going to sit down so I can sort of, it's easier to see me as I sort of prompt you through this. But find a comfortable position, whatever that means for you. And let's just go ahead and arrive first and foremost. There's a lot to do. So let's ground. I'll check in with how we feel physically, check in with how we feel emotionally, mentally. We just kind of start to build snapshots of how we're feeling. Maybe we can start to make connections of what we're eating, what we're doing, that maybe connects with how we're feeling. Maybe not. We're starting to try. Now, we're going to start to deepen our breath. Today, I'm going to ask you to do something that's extra not comfortable. I want you to really try to push your inhales and your exhales. Don't worry, I'll teach you a couple tricks on how to do that. But I'm going to warn you that this might rattle you a little bit. This might start to have you feel in a bit of a tizzy. You might feel some energy moving around, and I just want to warn you that that's normal, okay? The reason that I really want you to push this is that we're trying to develop the muscles related to our respiration. And I want you to really try to push those to start to strengthen them, to start to expand their capacity, okay? Now, once we start moving and things like that, we'll just maintain a more natural, deep breathing rhythm. But as we start, I really want you to go for it. So again, lying down if you want to, or seated. You can put your hands on your body. If that's comfortable, you can put your hands on your side, or if you're sitting on your lap. Now remember, the Ujjayi breathing technique is in and out of the nose, and you're constricting the base of your throat to make that fogging sound, both on the inhale and on the exhale. If you're a little bit congested, you can open up your mouth a little bit. So half the air is coming in through the nose, half the air is coming in through the mouth. Let's go ahead and begin that right now. So start to get into it. Now, let's talk about lengthening. You keep going. Just listen to what I'm saying. First, let's attack the exhale in a compassionate, gentle way, but we're still going to attack it. When you think you're done with your exhale, I want you to keep exhaling, and this is how I want you to do it. Actively, at the end of your exhale, start to draw your belly button in towards your spine as much as you possibly can. That'll start to squeeze a little bit more air out. Then start to pull that belly up towards your heart as if you were really just emptying out everything that's in the lungs completely. It might feel a little bit, you know, like I said, some anxiety, that's okay. You're safe. You're on your back. You're chilling. Now, the inhale, okay? When you think you're done with your inhale, you are going to try to sip in a second more of breath. Okay, how do we do that? Well, the first thing that's going to help us is that by emptying out our exhale completely. The more air we get out, the more space we have to bring in. So that's kind of our first strategy with it. The second strategy is to, again, breathing downward first, then into our ribs in all directions. And then at the very end, you can lift your top of your chest, collarbone up. So good, you keep going. I'm just going to kind of talk you through it, sort of coach you through it. But again, the strategy on the exhale is when you think you're done with that exhale, keep squeezing the belly down toward the spine and then up toward the heart. Try to ride that a little bit longer. And then as that inhale comes, slowly start to breathe down, 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 then out, 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 and then at the very end, up just a smidge. Now, don't get frustrated if you maybe have a short inhale or exhale in there. These are new muscles. Just do your best with it. It's about how you recover into the next one. Let that last one go. It's a new breath. And again, keep really pushing yourself. We're not going to keep doing this all class. We're just doing it now to really try to push the edges of our breathing capacity. And the last thing I want you to notice is the pressure of your breath. Typically, after a really big inhale, most people have a lot of pressure on their exhale. Like there's a lot coming out all at once. I want you to dial that back. Try to maintain the same amount of pressure throughout the entire exhale. Remember, I'm saying try. It might not always happen, but that's what you're going for. Similarly, on the inhale, some people tend to really want to get a lot of air in there quick. They just emptied completely out. They're a little freaked out. They want their oxygen. Relax. Do your best to even that pressure all the way through the inhalation. Essentially, what we're doing is we are maintaining an even amount of breath that leaves and comes in the body throughout the entire process. And if we can start to slow that down, we can take longer inhales and exhales. All right, like 1 or 2 more breaths. You're doing great. Just stay with it, really into the sound and the feeling of your breath. And if you need to use your mouth a bit more, if you need to open up your mouth, take care of yourself, it's cool. But again, recognize there might be some anxiety coming up. There might be some inner feelings that you're not used to. And that's the plan. We're working with that. Because now that you've finished these last 1 or 2 breaths that I just mentioned, now I want you to go into a place that's a little bit more comfortable for you. Now, it's still deeper than your natural unconscious breathing. But it's not nearly as deep as what we were just doing moments ago. And I want you to count and just kind of notice how long your inhale and exhale rhythm is. Some of the concepts that you can still carry over is this idea of evening out the pressure the entire way. And maybe going slightly beyond what you thought you could. Not all the way to your extreme, like I was saying earlier, but maybe you can start to just tiptoe a little bit beyond what you thought you could do. All right. If you're not on your back, come on to your backs. We're going to start just a little bit of a warm up here before we get into the new stuff. Thread the needle, right ankle on top of left thigh, hands in between the legs, and go ahead and grab on. Relax the head and shoulders down. Now see if you can get that Ujjayi technique. See if you can get that fogging sound with your breath. Again, we're on our back. We're not moving from pose to pose. We're in one place. So this is a great opportunity to see if you can stay with it now that your sensations of your body are starting to kind of talk to you a little bit as well. Two more breaths here. Remember, the toes flex back toward the knee, the ankle pushes into the thigh as the lever leg draws toward the chest. You might even feel a change in sensation in your legs on your inhale if you're really breathing downward. It's where just the dynamics of the breath start to affect the stretch. On your last exhale, bring the head and shoulders up off the ground. Squeeze yourself into a little bit of a ball here, keeping the legs the way they were. Empty out completely. Squeeze it down and out. And then go ahead and release, please switching sides. Left ankle on top of the right thigh. Grabbing onto your lever leg, head and shoulders relax. Let's go back to your count here. Notice if you can maintain that same length that you established now that you're in a different position. Let's rock our head a little to the right and to the left. Being careful not to bring any tension into our jaw or our face here. Let that be relaxed, even if our lower body is, kind of talking to us here. All right, last breath or two here, please. Try to make them a little bit longer. Again, not going into that place of stress, just starting to tiptoe a little bit deeper. And the last exhale, keeping the legs the way they are, curl into this ball, head and shoulders up off the ground, squeeze everything out. And then go ahead and release. Bring both knees into the chest. What we're going to do is just rock back and forth a little bit. Now, if this really hurts your spine, you can just sit up and come into a hands and knees position. But this might feel nice to get a little bit of a massage on the back. And then we're going to start to come all the way forward, cross the ankles, put the hands down, and bring the knees right underneath the hips, tabletop. Pause, reorient for a second. How's that breath doing? On your next inhale, coming into cow, looking up, tilting your pelvis forward, shoulders away from the neck and the ears as they slide down the back. Exhale, cat pose. Chin comes into the chest, pelvis tilts backward, arms push the ground away. Back and forth a couple times like that. So now we're actually trying to coordinate that deep breathing, maybe in and out of the nose, maybe with a sound, with a movement. So each inhale corresponds to cow, where we're looking up, shoulders down the back. Each exhale corresponds when the chin comes into the chest. We round our back up toward the ceiling. One more like that. All right. Tuck your toes underneath, lift your knees up off the ground, and then go ahead, push yourself back to downward facing dog. Keeping the knees bent so your pelvis can tilt forward, tailbone to the sky. Hands are evenly spaced, right? One isn't further forward than the other. Same thing with the feet. So go ahead, get yourself adjusted. And let's actually straighten the right leg. Keep the left knee bent. Keep pushing the hips up and back as we stretch into that right leg. and then switching sides. Bend the right knee, straighten the left, keep pushing the hips back. Finish the exhale completely. Switch sides once more. Take a full breath here. Notice how it's a little bit more tricky to breathe deeply when you're in this sort of inverted shape. And then back over to the left side. Then start to walk your feet all the way forward and keep your knees bent or legs straight, up to you. And then let's just hang out here. Grab onto your opposite elbows. So bend your elbows, grab on, and let yourself hang here. Take that head, shake it yes, and then no. On your next exhale, slowly release the arms down. Again, keep a significant bend in your knee. Bring your chin into the chest and slowly roll one vertebrae at a time. Now, your chin is the last thing to come up. So it's like almost you're stacking a pearl necklace of vertebrae one at a time. Finally, as the shoulders come up and roll back, the chin comes away from the chest, staring at the imaginary horizon. Shake out anything you need here and feel into both feet.
So let's quickly take a look at Sun Salutation A visually to review. Here it is all in one string, and it can be a little bit overwhelming. There's a lot happening there, so it might be helpful for us to break it down. Here are the first four poses, and if you notice, at the end of the sequence, they're the same four poses. So if we start to look at it in that grouping, we separate and we see that, okay, maybe I can remember that. Those are simple four poses. They start and end the sequence. And then in the middle, we have this little grouping where we lower down to that hover position of low plank. We back bend into cobra, and then we come into downward facing dog. So rather than look at it as one big sequence, we can even think of it as these three parts. And maybe that makes it just a bit more digestible. Now, I should mention, since we're here, this little grouping of poses, this lowering down to low plank, back bending into cobra, and then going into downward facing dog, is commonly referred to as a vinyasa or taking a vinyasa. Now, that's also a style of yoga that sort of came out of Ashtanga, but I'll talk about that more at another time. So to look at this in another way, look at these three parts in another way, and here you could see it with breath. We start to move our way through these first four poses. And then we go into our sort of middle grouping, this vinyasa, if you will. And then we do the first four poses just in reverse order. So let's give it a try.
Sun Salutation A. Inhale, the arms, big circle out to the side, palms facing one another, look up overhead, shoulders draw down, draw the lower ribs in. Exhale, bend the knees, ride that all the way down, chin into the chest. Inhale, halfway up, shoulders pull together and then down the back. Weight forward into the toes, tailbone sticks back. Exhale, bend the knees, step on back. We'll take a pause here in plank pose. Now, normally, Sun Salutation A, you wouldn't stop in this plank position. You would go all the way down to a low plank. We'll do that on the next round. Just kind of getting used to things as we warm up. Find your next exhale. Tilt the shoulders forward. Come down onto your knees if you need to. And then again, you're lowering forward to keep those elbows in like a grasshopper. Pausing, hovering, and then heart first, belly second. Point your toes, point your legs. Inhale, shoulder loop, take it up. Squeeze the shoulder blades together and back, and then take them down. as far as you can. And exhale to downward facing dog. Be here for about 3 breaths. So get yourself situated. Get those feet. Have a look at the feet. And take a peek at the hands. Make sure they're not turning way out to the side. Make sure you're not on your fists. You're not on your fingertips. Hands are flat for the most part. Maybe a little bit of a suction cup there. Again, bending the knees if you need to, and really trying to stay with that deep, fogging breath to direct your mental energy. Now, again, we're going to time our exhale so it finishes when our feet get to our hands, because the next pose is going to be half fold, and we're going to do that on an inhale. So I'm going to start my exhale in downward facing dog. I know it only takes me a second or two to get up there. When I know that I've only got a second or two left, then I'm going to start to walk or step, finishing the exhale, setting up half fold on my inhale. Take that round out of your back. Weight forward into the toes. Exhale, dive it in. Bring that chin all the way into the chest. Pull your belly up towards your spine, up towards your heart like we did at the beginning of class. And then inhale, arms all the way out to the side. Take it all the way up. And then exhale, retrace that circle. Arms come down. Pause for a second. One hand on the heart, one hand on the belly. Maybe even close your eyes. Feel here. Reconnect with breath. We'll do that twice more. I'll talk you through one more. The third one will be on your own. Here we go. The inhale takes the arms up. About a 4 to 5 second movement count. Try to really extend your breath to about there. Exhale, down and in, forward fold. Inhale, halfway up. Hands are just underneath the knees. Shoulders roll away from the neck and the ears. And then exhale, bend the knees. Hands come down all the way to low plank. So it's one long exhale. Hover, heart down, belly down. Point the toes, point the legs. Inhale, cobra. That shoulder loop. Gaze stays down on the floor so the back of the neck stays long. Exhale to downward facing dog. So you can see that when we go from half fold and we step back, we have to do it expeditiously. Can't be too casual about it, but at the same time we want to be in control. So this is where it starts to get a little bit tricky. One more breath in downward facing dog here. But again, a lot of times teachers will put that plank in there just to help sort of pace it out. But that is typically, or like I guess classically you could say, not part of the Sun Salutation A sequence. And I point that out because it comes into play with what we're learning today. Okay, here we go. Exhaling when you're ready. Finishing that exhale, stepping or walking forward. Immediately inhaling into half fold. Extend that spine long, extend the tailbone back behind you. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, arms reach way out to the side, carving the huge circle around you. Rib cage loops in, and exhale. Finish the sequence. Feel down into the feet. Immediately inhale to a round on your own. Now, don't worry if you maybe put an extra pose in there or you can't remember. I'm going to recommend that you just turn the brain off, turn the breath on, and see if your body remembers what to do. Remember, after half fold, you're going to step all the way back to low plank. It's one exhale. Do your best with that. You need to take a little extra breath in there, totally fine. Just want you to know what you're working towards. Now we'll all hang out in downward facing dog together. I'll let you know when to come out, just so we can kind of get a little bit of a pace and rhythm. Now that said, it's really important that you follow your own breath rhythm. When you're in a group class, when we're doing this together, I don't want you to feel rushed. Okay, some people can breathe really, really long. Some people can breathe short. So it's a little bit tricky. So whatever you can do to sort of know what's coming next and not get lost in the class while still maintaining your deep breathing is cool with me. All right, exhaling, let's get it stepping forward. And finishing it off. Now we're doing the first 4 poses in reverse order. All right, nice little breathing practice, a little thread the needle, a couple rounds of Sun Salutation A. I don't know about you, but I've got a little bit of heat going. Now we're gonna go into this other version of Sun Salutation. Typically, it's just Sun Salutation without a letter after it. It's commonly associated with Śivānanda Yoga. Śivānanda Yoga is not as prominent in the American yoga scene. Doesn't make it any less valuable. It's just the way that things have gone. I think it's a great sequence, and there are a couple of major differences and a lot of similarities. So we're going to explore those. So before we actually go into it, let me break down one of the new things. So instead of lowering the body down, so we go from into low plank, our body, our chest, our abdomen, and our hips are all on one line as they lower down. Okay, even if my knees are on the ground, everything is all in one line and it goes down together. Okay, in the Śivānanda Sun Salutation, they don't do that pose. They do a pose called knees, chest, and chin. So, and they do have plank. So we do hold like a plank, a top of a push-up position. So from plank, how you do this pose, so you can just kind of have a break for a second and watch what I'm doing. Drop the knees down first. Okay, kind of similar to how you would do low plank if you were using your knees for support. Now, the difference is we leave our hips back. We don't take our hips with us. We start to go forward. So we're trying to take our heart, not like next to in between our thumbs, but just forward of our hands. And then the chest and chin come down. Elbows squeeze together. Knees, chest, and chin. There it is. Now, to come out of this into Cobra, the hands are going to drag backward as we pull our chest forward. Point the toes. And here we are. And then downward facing dog, right? Let me show you that again very quickly. So you'll step back to plank. Actually, we'll be holding our breath here. And then on exhale, knees, chest, and chin. Elbows squeeze. Inhale, slither forward to come out of it. All right. What some people will do in knees, chest, and chin is just sort of flatten their hips out and send their legs back. I want you to really try to pull the chest forward. It gives it this really serpentine feeling, very in line with Cobra pose or Bhujangasana. All right. So that's the major element that you're going to need to know that we haven't talked about yet. The other thing that we're going to have in this pose is, or in this sequence, is low lunging cow. So if you're really tight in your hips and your lower body, having a couple blocks or something similar, a couple old books, a couple pieces of wood, a couple of rolls of paper towels might be really nice, okay? So you might want to have those around. I'll demonstrate with the blocks. I'll also demonstrate without the blocks. So here we go. I think we're ready to put this together. Yeah, let's do it.
So before we get started, let's look at the sun salutation of the Śivānanda style. And again, when we look at it all at once, it seems like kind of like a string of poses, and that can be a little overwhelming. So again, let's break this down into parts as well. So we see a similar beginning. Instead of a half fold here, we have this low lunging cow, still a shoulder loop happening in this position, but just in a different lower body orientation. And then here it is again. Same four poses, essentially, ending the sequence just in reverse order. And then, bam, there it is. Another short little kind of lowering down to the ground, and then a cobra and downward facing dog. So again, when we see this as these three parts, it maybe becomes something that we can retain a little bit easier than thinking about all 12 stages. Now, just a review to look at everything side by side, we can see that there are direct parallels, the exact same poses and very similar positions in both the sequences. We also have some similar poses, arms overhead versus standing arch. And then we have sort of our low plank becoming this high plank in knees, chest, and chin. So not as similar, but still harkens and has a similar feel. And that leaves us then with the major differences. In Sun Salutation A, there's a half fold. In the Sun Salutation Śivānanda, there's this low lunging cow. It happens on both sides. So you can still see that there's a degree of symmetry here, just a slightly different approach.
All right, come to the front. Shake it out a little bit. Here we go. Mountain pose. Same as Sun Salutation A. Easy peasy so far, JBZ. What you got for me? Well, let's start to explore here a little bit and see what comes next. Instead of doing just arms overhead, we're going to do a pose called standing arch. So, root down through your heels, start to sweep the arms forward, and as you reach up, keep reaching up, but then start to reach back a little bit. Reaching up to go back, tuck the tailbone down toward the heels. That's going to give space to your lower back. And this is standing arch. Now we'll eventually find an exhale and forward fold, and we're right back to pose that we're familiar with. And we're going to actually hang out here for a moment. So inhale, notice how it's hard to inhale here when you're in a forward fold position, but do your best. And exhale. Now, there's no half fold in this version of Sun Salutation A. Instead, we're going to finish the end of the exhale and forward fold and step back with our right foot and drop our right knee down onto the ground. This is where the blocks might come in handy for low lunging cow. Now, if you don't use something and you're kind of tight here, it's really hard to access your upper body. So this is why it's nice to have something to lift you up and allows you to get into shoulder loop. Now, normally we'll only be here for one inhale in this, but we're new to it. We're warming up this part of our body, so we're going to hang out, pace it out a little bit. From this pose, we are going to go to plank, top of a push-up. This is why I've kept my back toes tucked underneath. That way they're already there and ready. Now, what we'll do is we'll actually hold our breath in. The Sanskrit term for this is kumbhaka. And in fact, holding your breath in top of a push-up is oftentimes called kumbhakasana. So here we go. Top of your next inhale, hold it in, plant your hands flat, and step back to that plank. Now, exhale, knees, chest and chin. Squeeze the shoulder blades together, squeeze the elbows, finish the exhale. Inhale, drag yourself forward to come into cobra. Point your toes and legs back behind you. Back of the neck stays long. Shoulders down the back. Exhale, downward facing dog. Adjust your downward facing dog as you need to and do your best to try to maintain a deep, steady breath rhythm. Not always easy to do, but that's the work. Eventually, as you practice, it'll become more easy. Now, whatever foot we step back with is the same foot we're going to step forward with, and that'll give us both sides. So we step back with our right foot first on this one, so we're going to step forward with our right foot. Now, similar to Sun Salutation A, we want to time it so it comes at the end of an exhale. The next pose that we do is going to be on an inhale. So if it takes you a moment to step forward, maybe you have to yank it forward, time it appropriately. Here we go. Step that right foot all the way in between the hands and drop the back knee down. Shoulders roll back, looking up as we would for low lunging cow. And again, we're going to hang out here for a moment. Normally, we would only be here for an inhale, though. Now, our back toes are still tucked underneath, and that's going to act as like a little springboard to get into a forward fold. Check it out. Do it with me, actually. As you finish your next inhale, shoulders down the back, looking up. On the exhale, lift your knee and use your toes to spring forward into a forward fold. Now we're actually going to hang out here. Normally we would just do one exhale, but again, we're pacing this out. We're kind of getting used to a new sequence. So just hang out here for one more exhale. When that exhale finishes for you, root down through your heels. You bend the knees a little bit. Paint the sky in front of you as you sweep the hands up for standing arch, lifting up to go back, up to go back, up to go back. Tuck that tailbone down and exhale. Re-sweep the hands forward. And there you have it. So let's do it one more time. We'll still hold a couple of poses in there, but some of the other ones we won't. So kind of starting to build and scaffold it. Please inhale your arms up, standing arch. And the reason we tuck our tailbone down is to create space for our lower back. Otherwise, it can get a little crunchy in there. So be careful with yourself. Be gentle. Or just don't go back so far. Exhale, forward fold. This is the one we're going to hold for a moment. So an extra inhale here. Again, just a pace. Finish your exhale. And as that exhale finishes, we're actually going to step our left foot back first this time. So I'm kind of alternating. Back knee down. Inhale, low lunging cow. Okay, we're going to hold our breath in here. So we're not going to hold this position that long anymore. We're going to step it right back, holding the breath. We're in plank. Exhale, knees, chest, and chin. Heart goes forward. Chin down. Squeeze shoulder blades together. And then inhale. Sweep yourself into cobra. Back of the neck long. Exhale. Downward facing dog. Try to even that pressure out while you maintain as deep breaths as you possibly can. Again, I really like that fogging sound of Ujjayi. I encourage you to give that a try, even if you're just peppering it in here and there when you can. All right. So now on an exhale, the left foot's going to step in between the hands. So do what you got to do to get it there. Back knee comes down. Inhale, just one long inhale here. Low lunging cow. And then exhale, spring yourself on forward into a forward fold. Inhale, arms all the way up and overhead, standing arch. Up to go back, being careful with your lower back here, please. And exhale, sweep the arms down. We'll do 2 more rounds. First, the next one we'll do right foot back. The last one, left foot back first. And then we'll start to come into a relaxation position. Inhale, sweep arms up, standing arch, lift, expand the rib cage here, tuck the tailbone down. Exhale, forward fold. Keep the exhale going, step the right foot back. Right knee comes onto the ground. Inhale, low lunging cow. Long inhale here. Keep the inhale going slightly longer if you can. Then to hold into plank pose. Knees, chest, and chin as you exhale. Squeeze shoulder blades together. Inhale forward to come up into cobra. And then exhale, downward facing dog. One more inhale here. Make it a good one. Don't rush it. Start the exhale in downward facing dog. Finish the exhale by stepping the right foot all the way forward in between the hands. Inhale, low lunging cow, shoulders pull back, looking up. And then soon as you're ready, use those back toes and exhale yourself all the way forward into a forward fold. Squeezing the belly up and in. Inhale, soften the knees, sweep the arms forward, lifting up, standing arch. Exhale, back to mountain. One more. Immediately, inhale, arms up. Lift it up to go back, standing arch. Exhale, empty the breath completely. Keep riding that exhale as long as you can. Left foot steps back first. Knee comes down. Inhale slowly, deeply. Holding the breath when you get to the top of that inhale. Stepping into plank. Exhale, knees, chest, and chin. Squeeze all the breath out. Shoulder blades come together on the back. Inhale, slither forward into cobra. Shoulders down the back and together. Exhale, downward facing dog. Like, can you stay connected with your breath through this process? It's okay if you can. But are you trying? Keep trying. Keep bringing your awareness to it. It's a process. Don't be hard on yourself. It's not going to all magically happen at once. Your next exhale starts in downward facing dog. It finishes with the foot stepping forward, back knee down. Inhale, low lunging cow. When the exhale happens, forward fold. Soften the knees as you sweep up, up, up to go back. And exhale, coming all the way down into mountain. And pause here for a moment. One hand on the heart, one hand on the belly. Just notice what the different sequences feel like as you come on down to a reclining position on your back for a final relaxation. Straighten the legs out, so we're not crossing at the ankles. Have them be about hip width apart and let the feet flop open like pages of a book. Palms face up about 6 to 8 inches from the side of your body, and sort of wiggle your shoulder blades a little bit underneath your heart. You can close your eyes here and just turn off any of your controlled breathing at this point. Now for me, sometimes I get so into that sound of Ujjayi breath that it's hard. I want to keep it going. There's nothing too wrong with that, but I would say also give yourself a little bit of a break and just see what happens when you allow your breath to be. And it's at this point we really want to just let everything go. Let your body restore. Just let everything settle in. If there's things trying to pull your attention away from this moment, from your moment, just inhale, say to yourself, let. Exhale, say to yourself, go. When it comes to my yoga and meditation practice, I don't like to think of it as an escape. The word escape implies that I'm trying to get away from something and I'm never going to go back there. Instead, I recognize that I do have responsibilities, I have obligations, I have things that I need to do. But now I'm just taking some space for myself. Taking some space to feel connected. To feel strong. At least a little bit on a physical, mental, and emotional level. And it's in taking this space that allows me to be more present when it's time to go back to those things in my life that need addressed. So allow yourself to be in this space. And if anything tries to creep into it, inhale, let. Exhale, go. Inhale, let. Exhale, go. If you've got the time, feel free to stay on your back and continue to take the space that you need. Once you're ready, roll over to one side into a fetal position. Sit up nice and tall. Again, whenever you're ready to come off your back. And when you sit up nice and tall, just take a moment to reorient, maybe blink your eyes open, Maybe rub the legs a little bit, bring some sensation back into the body from a sort of tactile perspective. And although this is essentially an individual practice, it's not just about you. I encourage you to take what you learn about yourself. I encourage you to take this feeling of connection that you have with yourself, that you then take it off of your mat or off of your space and then into the world. And allow it to help facilitate and empower you to be a positive, or to have a positive impact on the world around you, whether that be really locally or on a larger level.
So before we part ways, I just want to show you visually what the sun salutation sequence from the Śivānanda style looks like with the breaths. And we can see we move into standing arch on an inhale, and the exhale in the forward fold. Now, I let the arrow go past this exhale. So let's say you want to get into your full forward fold while you're still exhaling, you're going to want to step 1 foot back. Now, whatever foot you step back with is up to you. I tend to do these sun salutations in pairs. So the first one, I'll step my right foot back. The second one, I'll step my left foot back, for instance. But just you'll remember which one you use so you can stay symmetrical. And then you go through as you hold that inhale, and then knees, chest, and chin. And of course, since we stepped back in this illustration with the right leg first, we'll step forward with the right leg um, to finish off the sequence. So again, just helpful to see all at once broken down with the various breaths. Feel free to pause this video as you sort of acclimate with it and let it settle in. Hope you enjoyed today's lesson. One last thing I want to point out is that in our practice, we hung out in downward facing dog for a bit. In the sort of traditional style, that downward facing dog would just be one exhale, and then we'd be out of there right away. So you can see that this can build some heat and get you moving and grooving. So again, it's up to you how you modify it, and you'll see it modified in different ways in different classes. But I always think it's helpful to see sort of its original intent. Have a great rest of your day. Be nice to people. Drink plenty of water. Keep breathing. Keep practicing. Peace.